2017 Mob Vote. Barnacle. The Barnacle was one of Minecraft's first mob vote losers at the first ever 2017 Minecon Earth event, where people from all around the world were called upon to vote for their choice for which thrilling new mob would come into Minecraft's vast universe through Twitter polls. This foreboding underwater creature, whose proper title was the Monster of the Ocean Depths in official development parlance, was specifically created to lurk menacingly in dim underwater crevices and caverns, utilizing its squirmy, foreboding tentacles to pull unsuspecting gamers downwards into the muddy depths below them. The elaborate concept art envisioned this fearsome creature as a giant kraken-esque being that would hook itself into the seafloor solidly, waiting strategically in position for unsuspecting explorers who would dare venture onto the colorful coral reefs or check out mysterious wrecks strewn across the seafloor. The Barnacle's novel mechanics would have entirely altered underwater navigation for the duration of the game by presenting truly threatening environmental hazards requiring cautious strategic movement and planning from players. Players would need to employ new strategies, such as scrupulously steering clear of dark underwater spaces where deadly Barnacle could be patiently waiting, poised to attack at just the right time. Had this fearsome creature received the pivotal vote, the Barnacle would have been able to create intriguing synergies with future game content, specifically with the addition of drowned mobs in Update 1.13 as part of the massive update Aquatic, where the oceans were given a full and far-ranging overhaul. The inclusion of this predator could have introduced tiered, layered threats in ocean biomes, making underwater gameplay tougher and more immersive for players. Its final defeat in voting ensured Minecraft's comparatively calm and serene aquatic environments were left intact, upholding the peaceful exploration underwater which many users had come to adore. Its popularity, though, continued when dedicated modders later pushed such deep-sea horror ideas further in their personal modifications, dictating the sustained popularity and feasibility of such marine monsters within Minecraft's community. Wildfire. The Wildfire, originally referred to as the fearsome hovering inferno during pre-development brainstorming sessions, was one of the scorching hot favorites in the intense 2017 vote, poised to take nether combat mechanics to all new and thrilling heights. This highly armored creature was created to hover menacingly above players amidst an aura of paranormal dominance, parrying incoming strikes with its heavy armored plates, while at the same time striking back forcefully and explosively as fireballs. Harkening back to a much deadlier and highly evolved variant of the familiar Blaze enemy that was already well known among players. The Mojang developers pictured this fearsome creature defending perilous nether fortresses with single-minded dedication, wherein its imposing fireproof defenses would require players to adopt completely new tactics and strategies. Players would have to get cleverer in their combat tactics, targeting those minute openings in the creature's seemingly unbreachable armor. Unlike Phantom, who actually bested the vote through its novel insomnia-based mechanic that penalized players for sleeping, and despite its gruesome sounds and distinctive aggro path pattern, the Wildfire's single-minded emphasis on defensive combat mechanics foreshadowed epic boss-like potential, perhaps acting as an imposing guardian for rare and precious treasures or acting as a menacing mini-boss within treacherous nether fortresses in newly spawned boss rooms. The legacy of this powerful creature later reappeared in the hit spin-off title Minecraft Dungeons, reappearing in various difficult missions where it first emerged as a ferocious and iconic foe. In this concept, it had an unyielding defense system whereby it could only be harmed after all 4 shields surrounding its core were destroyed by players repeatedly as they spin around continuously. Moreover, it showed a remarkable capacity for summoning other blazes as reinforcements while in combat, further proving itself as an incredible potential Minecraft mini-boss worth adding considerable depth into nether exploration. The Great Hunger. The final piece of 2017's intriguing trio of losers was the Great Hunger, a masterfully disguised predator that would suddenly jump out from solid ground and attack unsuspecting players, consuming precious items as well as other mobs along with them because of its insatiable great appetite. In official concept documents, this creature was likened to a small lizard-like creature with an enormously wide maw, and one that supposedly has an unquenchable great appetite for magic enhancements, rendering it all the more deadly owing to targeting enchanted weapons and protective gear for which players would have struggled hard to acquire. The mob's single greatest and perhaps game-altering mechanic was adding or subtracting enchantments from player-acquired items, a system that could have entirely altered inventory management strategies and risk-reward, at least until later in-game additions like the Grindstone became available in following updates, which ultimately found use for a similar purpose for handling enchantments. Despite its small size, this tiny-sized mob would have been a massive nuisance and continuous threat to players if added successfully into the game. Players could easily envision the agony of carefully mining for valuable diamonds in deep underground caverns, which then would be devoured whole by this subterranean threat, leaving players into hard choices about either getting into possibly lethal combat or abandoning everything from an area entirely empty-handed, essentially being an actual menace for hardcore miners and explorers alike. 2018 Biome Chooser Meerkat. Meerkats were a prominent feature of the extensive 2018 Desert Biome expansion promise, which would have given intriguing additions such as palm-shaded oases and complex burrow structures scattered across the desert terrain. Extremely social mobs, meerkats would have been sentinels posted high atop sand dunes, scurrying into the protective cover of sand whenever signs of danger drew near to their home grounds. While little detailed information is presently available about the exact workings of the meerkat, devoted community theorists surmise that gamers could have been able to train these clever animals as living radar devices, their characteristic alarm bark functioning as early danger signals for creepers nearby, or signals for hidden treasures buried underground in the desert. The disappointing defeat of the meerkats at the hands of the taiga biome's fan-favorite foxes left much of the vast desert areas dependent upon the scarce fauna of rabbits and husks for wildlife diversity, leaving a discernible lack in desert wildlife variety that was somewhat remedied years later after the much-awaited arrival of camels in the later updates. This lost potential was a huge blow to fans who appreciated the social dynamics and worth-playing potential that these animals could have introduced into often isolated desert exploring gameplay. Ostrich. The majestic ostrich played center stage in the ambitious 2018 Biome Chooser, part of an exciting package to enhance the savanna biome with the addition of stunning baobab trees and ferocious termites, which would have assaulted players and other mobs alike when these dared get too close to their meticulously built mounds, even resorting to poisoning others who hung around too long in their terrain. Focusing again on the ostrich, these flightless birds would have marched in coordinated herds across the vast savannas, their immensely powerful legs making for high-speed sprints that would enable them to outrun deadly predators in remarkable agility and style. The developers particularly teased intriguing ostrich racing mechanics that could have provided a completely new aspect for player transport and enjoyment. Having them in-game could have introduced new transport methods across the world, as people would ride along ostrich herds for fast and effective biomes traveling between large areas. Ostriches were speculated about in communities as well, that they could lay eggs for use in brewing formulas or as thrown projectiles, an early concept precursor to the sniffer's ancient eggs seen in future updates. The ostrich's final defeat at the behest of the taiga biome's foxes ensured that the savannas remained largely cosmetic biomes with few interactive fauna until the major 2023 Armadillo update ultimately injected life into these areas, though without the exciting transport and racing appeal that was possible for adventurous players if ostriches were present. Chinese 2018 vote. Baiji. As part of China's solo 2018 mob vote, a one-time region-exclusive poll, the lovely Baiji dolphin was introduced as a bright pink color variant for the already present species of dolphins. This brightly colored marine mammal would have injected coral reefs around the world's oceans with dramatic color variety, gliding gracefully between tropical fish and continuing to offer player interactions through affectionate behavior that was remarkably akin to its already existing cousin species in-game. Although information about its gameplay functionality is regrettably lacking from available sources, its bright pink color highly implies categorization as a passive mob akin to standard dolphins, perhaps being useful for navigation for lost players, or producing hard-to-get drops for crafting purposes. The region-based nature of the vote provoked intriguing discussions in the global community regarding representation from different cultures in Minecraft, specifically because pandas were immensely symbolic in Chinese media and were part of Chinese culture, making them a foreground conclusion for this region-based vote from a culturally driven perspective. Alligator. The imposing Yangtze alligator, commonly just called the alligator in community talk, ranked a solid second in China's hotly contested 2018 vote, presenting itself as a powerful riverine hunter that would have introduced new threats into aquatic discovery. This well-armored reptile would have stalked menacingly in swamps and rivers, waiting to catch unwary explorers off guard with surprise, crushing lunges that would have dragged them beneath the water's surface where escape would have been much tougher. Community theorists hope these creatures would have scaly skins that would shed valuable resources for crafting wholly new forms of armor, further enhancing progression in the equipment system. The existence of such a deadly predator could have made swamps actually feel threatening and difficult, bringing much-needed tension into these underused biomes. Though defeated in the vote, the alligator's concept continued as a source of inspiration for later community debates about the threats native to certain biomes, many arguing for more hostile flora and fauna to counterbalance Minecraft's otherwise pacifist ecosystems. The white-lipped deer. The elegant white-lipped deer would have been a serene forest inhabitant that would have run in small herds through taiga and birch forests, with their large antlers potentially being a prize for brewing or player-built decorations. Fleeing herds from wolf predation would have introduced dynamic wildlife encounters into forest environments, with characteristic hoof particles spraying snow when exploring winter environments, making for lovely graphical effects while roaming about seasonally. Although deer never worked out in the base game, their idea clearly re-emerged in the 2021 Mountain Goats, which brought significant elevation and terrain-based behaviors that recalled some of the movement ideas initially considered for the deer species. Golden Monkey. The glistening golden monkey was an example of a beautiful golden-furred primate, and jungle community rumors hinted at rare temple spawns, where it could pilfer valuable items from users or offer trading of fruits such as bananas for other resources. Players came up with elaborate theories for canopy swinging mechanics or intricate taming processes that relied upon fruit wards, but Mojang's official post following the vote categorically ruled these out as unplanned additions to gameplay. The final defeat of the golden monkey left jungle biomes completely dependent upon parrots and ocelots for ambient flora and fauna, until pandas were introduced worldwide in later patches, though regrettably without an equivalent potential for player-active mayhem and interactivity that could have further made jungle exploration much more exciting and immersive. 2019 Biome Chooser. Vulture. The foreboding vulture swooped into contention for the 2019 biome vote as part of the ambitious update proposal for the Badlands biome, though ultimately defeated by the mountain biome's fan-favorite goats in final voting tabulations. The vulture-like birds would have sat menacingly atop mesa plateaus, flying in listless circles high above ground level before diving down precisely to claim rotten flesh from players or swooping upon undead mobs for perilous late-night assaults. The vultures were explicitly created to pick up items straight from the ground and pilfer loot from players as well, adding distinctive item pickup mechanics that would have forced players into negotiations and meet trade bargains for retrieving their loot from these intelligent vultures. While never explicitly confirmed by Mojang developers, these vultures were speculated in communities to be neutral during the day but after dusk would turn hostile, embodying an interesting day-night behavior change akin to zombie pigmen, making players rethink their entire approach to exploring at night in desert biomes. Concept art depicted these magnificent birds nesting atop high cliffs and diving down onto cacti unscathed. Were these birds successfully introduced into the game, Mojang could have introduced further mechanics such as feather drops for crafting new armors or specialist arrows imbued with extraordinary abilities. The disappointing defeat of the vulture left the Badlands biomes totally bereft of bird life until the Major Trails and Tales update, which introduced intriguing archaeology mechanics but regretfully no new living fauna to inhabit the Badlands. 2020 Mob Vote. Moobloom. The 2020 Moobloom is still one of Minecraft's sweetest and saddest losers. A lovely flower cow that would have developed intriguing interactions between the in-game bee mechanics. These striking yellow and white speckled bees would have peacefully roamed flower forests, showing flowers sprouting from their backs while leaving pollen trails that increased the growth rates for crops or drew beneficial pollinators towards player farms. Community speculation further proposed alternate versions based on the flowers that were present on their back, possibly altering color and abilities depending upon which biome they were found in. The defeat of the Moobloom at the hands of the glow squid created much controversy in the community, since many felt strongly that it possessed much more tangible gameplay mechanics than its glowing counterpart, which many regarded as entirely visually based. The creature's novel design foreshadowed complex interactions between ecosystems that could have been revolutionary, maybe even introducing helpful symbiotic relationships between mobs and their ecosystems. Although Mooblooms never did get a chance to move serenely across fields, their enduring memory remains in dedicated texture packs and fervent fan appeals for Mojang to bring this much-loved idea back in some future update. Isolager. The threatening Isolager, an Illager variant hostile counterpart, cooled the 2020 vote with its Mountain Summit threat, failing in the same disappointing manner as the Moobloom to the ultimately triumphant Glow Squid. These spellcasters would have cast threatening chunks of ice down from high positions, building deadly terrain requiring new ranged combat tactics, as they would have spawned directly atop snow-clad mountain peaks, symbolizing a natural progression for the ambitious Caves and Cliffs update's drastically expanded mountain elevation. Their exclusion from the game ensured that Minecraft's serene isolation, which defined Minecraft's peaceful highs, remained intact, but this peace was still contested because many preferred harder encounters in Minecraft's world in order to try out their abilities. Because of this prevalent appetite for tougher combat, its dedicated fanbase went on to develop modded Illager versions complete with frost magic in order to provide this seemingly empty gap in gameplay, and even offering a new undying totem upon death, mechanics that could have been added to the original game, creating more challenge and enlarging the huge potential of this Illager variant. 2021 Mob Vote. Glare. The 2021 Glare, a floating, sort of adorable creature that kept itself hidden under its covering of moss, would seek to overhaul base building mechanics by sensing perilous dark areas where hostile mobs would spawn. This nervous mob would have audibly hissed and grumbled in dim light environments, delivering useful real-time feedback about player building's spawn-proving efforts. Although at first glance this ability did appear quite interesting, numerous veteran players eventually found this ability completely useless, since already one could reliably gauge areas' light levels through F3's readily accessible debug screen available for all users. This redundancy ultimately led its removal from Alley's more useful item collection functionality that had definite advantages. Redstone experts solely missed it because light automation remains annoyingly clunky in the absence of in-game assistance for handling intricate constructs. The glare's unusual botanical appearance fit perfectly into the biome of lush caves, promising possible interactions between glowing berries or moss blocks that were never seen because of its defeat. Copper Golem. The Copper Golem's heartbreaking 2021 defeat denied players a delightful clockwork companion that would press copper buttons and gradually oxidize into decorative statues over time. This ambulatory automaton would have introduced random redstone activations to contraptions, enabling dynamic circuit designs and complex puzzle mechanics that could have revolutionized automated systems. Redstone engineers were already working on intricate designs for making use of these small golems for complex patrolling routines and machinery, while builders were already picturing Vendigree-covered statues filling up courtyards in wonderful-looking decorative arrangements. With Mojang's subsequent additions of other copper blocks such as lightning rods and other patches, the lack of a moving copper creature left a large void in utilitarian and aesthetic potential, making Copper Golem one of the long-called-for additions deserving a spot in Minecraft's vast population roster. 2022 Mob Vote. Rascal. The 2022 Mob Vote introduced a rather unorthodox mob with new gameplay mechanics. The Rascal, a twisted creature that has bound itself in a cumbersome pack of treasures upon its back. Lurking in shadows within underground networks of caves, it would likely be sluggish and wary upon first encounter, but one whose Rascal-like name undercuts its character. Looking for entertainment and player interaction prior to venturing into light. If players succeeded in its challenging game of hide-and-seek across the winding caverns and managed to find it 3 separate times, it would finally come out of hiding and reward the successful player with the treasures contained in its bag, ranging from enchanted gear to valuable ores, before mysteriously disappearing back into the darkness again. Although its mechanics were considered the most unique and creative ever introduced in any Minecraft mob vote, it couldn't reach enough votes and unfortunately lost to the ultimately victorious Sniffer. Tough Golem. The 2022 Tough Golem loss deprived builders of a mobile item display stand capable of ferrying objects between different pedestals throughout their constructions. Crafted from tuff, a durable, oxidation-resistant block perfect for construction, these helpful golems could have automated museum exhibits or sorting systems specifically designed for non-stackable items, as they were designed to hold any item or pick up any dropped objects in their vicinity. A unique feature they possessed was the ability to freeze and remain completely stationary for an undefined period of time before resuming movement again, creating unpredictable but useful behavior patterns. Their defeat preserved players' reliance on static armor stands for displays, missing valuable opportunities for animated decor that could have brought builds to life. Players developed complex theories about integrations with hopper clocks or redstone comparators, but without official implementation, these innovative ideas remain completely unachieved, as the Tough Golem ended up finishing last on the votes list. 2023 Mob Vote. Crab. Crab was introduced for the first time in the competitive mob vote of 2023, with the promising assurance of increased block placement reach, a builder's ultimate desire for building complex structures without having to use flimsy scaffolding systems. The unique claws of this mangrove-dwelling crustacean symbolize the key to realizing this increased reach function, greatly easing building for complex architectural structures. Its signature sidelong walk cycle influenced playful animation ideas within the community, while its tameable nature hinted at bringing utility mobs into existence, which would help players in daily life. Although the armadillo won out in the poll, Crab's community-led promotion campaigns indicate Mojang might at least think about reintroducing vertical building aids in future patches to fill the requirements of its community. Penguin. The Penguin from 2023 brought immense opportunity to improve boat speeds, in particular within icy waters, a mechanic that would have made oceanic travel between far-flung biomes much more streamlined. These little animals would have paired uncoordinated walk cycles with smooth swimming movements, providing quaint ambient life for frozen beaches and icy shores. While the penguin stole community members' hearts by being irresistibly cute, it was nonetheless deemed pretty useless by most practical players because they had the current ice blocks to use for quicker boat speed anyway. Its removal left polar biomes doubly dependent on strays and polar bears for biodiversity, depriving them of breeding mechanics for colonies or fishing trade mechanisms that would have made Arctic discovery more rewarding and more involving for hardcore players looking for new challenges.